Cyberpunk 2077 was in the news this week as the developer CD Projekt Red announced that the game has officially sold 30 million copies, which is absolutely wild because as someone who followed the launch of this game and then the delisting of this game, to realize that this game has had a 360 turnabout, like coming from the dead, it's incredible. Like, let's just remember exactly what happened, right? Cyberpunk 2077, the first trailer came out 8 years or 6 years before the game came out. Anticipation was building. It was building. We all couldn't wait. And then the year came. We got the release trailer. Cyberpunk 2077 is coming out this year, and it was, dare I say, the most anticipated game of that year. Years of hype, and the game finally comes out to resounding groans. The game was bad. Cyberpunk 2077 had various graphic issues. The game was crashing multiple times. There was various bugs and sound issues. I mean, it got so bad that Sony and Microsoft both kicked the game off of their store. Like, do you realize how hard it is to get delisted by Sony? Because right now, in the PlayStation Store, there is a game that is called I'm in Love with Your Dead Grandmother, and somehow that game is still listed, but Cyberpunk 2077, no ma'am, we can't have that in there. That's a bad game. Loving your dead grandma? I see nothing wrong. So fast forward a couple weeks, CD Projekt Red comes out, they make apologies, they say we're going to do this right, we're going to fix this. They bunker down, they pound out the pixels, and they smooth out the wrinkles in this game, release a bunch of updates, eventually come out with a DLC, and this game, where it stands now, it is the full realization of what Cyberpunk 2077 should have been at launch. And I think that this proves as a testament, right? We shouldn't just release games and just be like, well, they suck, don't play them again, right? Developers should always be allowed to like grow on the vision, and like you should never give up on a game. I feel like that story is becoming too common. People are like, this game's dead at arrival, and then 5 years later, we're all like, this game is really great. But at the same time, I think that this should serve as a word of warning to all developers that a delay isn't a bad thing, right? If Cyberpunk 2077 would have been delayed another year, right? People would have grown, social media would have been upset, but then 24 hours later, they would have been over it, right? Something else would have happened. Xbox would be threatened, and they'd be like, oh no, forget about Cyberpunk 2077. Xbox is shutting down. We have comments by Phil Spencer. Let's talk about them, folks. No one would care about Cyberpunk 2077 being delayed another year. And look, I say this as someone who played the game at launch, right? The game was rough. I'm talking dogs in the house, R-U-F-F, rough. Like, it was bad, right? But I played it recently. I played some of the DLC expansions. I saw the improvements made in the game, and it is incredible. The game is finally the full realization of what we saw in that original trailer that captivated millions of gamers. And it raises the question that, should it be Game of the Year, right? Cyberpunk has officially hit full production, right? The game is great, hit 30 million copies. Should Cyberpunk 2077 be able to compete for Game of the Year now, right? The game came out a while ago, I get that. But if you look at the game we have today and the game that launched, we're talking completely different games. This is night and day. This is a brand new game. Should it be able to compete for Game of the Year? And I get Game of the Year only qualifies for the games that released in the last 12 months. Yeah, but we now have a DLC expansion inside of Game of the Year contender. No offense to Jeff Keighley, but the rules have just been thrown out the window. So should Cyberpunk 2077 be given its roses? Should we praise the game at the Game Awards? At the very least, I think it would be awesome to come out with a category that's called like from coal to diamond, right? Diamonds are created when you get a lot of pressure, and you can create diamonds, right? What if we created a category for games that launched and they were rough? Like, I'm talking bad. But then the developer stuck with it, and they eventually came out with the vision. What if we had a category like that? I mean, games like Cyberpunk 2077 would qualify. Games like No Man's Sky would qualify. Fallout 76, Sea of Thieves. These were all games that launched, and they were very bare bones, and the developer just said, hey, let me cook. Let me get this going. And after a year or a year and a half, we all look at these games and we're like, fuck, this is fantastic. right? Look at like No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky was literally given their death rights. And Hello Games was the biggest laughingstock on the internet. I will never forget the funniest video that I've ever seen while doing the show was the No Man's Sky being like, this is what the game's going to be. And then it's like, this is what it was at launch. And somebody was like playing like on a recorder. They were playing like the Jurassic Park music. Funniest thing in the world. But if you look at No Man's Sky now, Hello Games stuck with it. They continued developing. They continued releasing updates. And they now have, I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying this, but like one of the best open world video games of this generation. I feel like we should acknowledge that. And I feel as gamers, we should applaud developers from sticking from that. Like, yes, it sucks that you made people buy games for a broken game, and I feel like you should apologize, which most developers do. But at the same time, I doubt that the development team all felt that the game was ready. Right? I think if you were to ask the people coding, the people doing the artwork, the people doing the graphics, or even the QA team, like, is the game ready to launch? And they'd be like, we need more time. But there was probably people in management who were just like, push the game, get it out. I want Cyberpunk out. We said it's launching in 2024. Get the game out. And I feel like when you do see these stories and people are given second chances and they just knock it out of the park, we should applaud them. So anyway, I didn't want to spend too much time on the story. I just thought it was great for CD Projekt Red. And kudos to the development team back there. Especially the entry-level developers who are probably pounding away to make this game good and to like back up the vision of the game. Great job on it. The new update to Cyberpunk 2077 is fantastic. The DLC expansions are fantastic. If you've been waiting to get back into this game and you were scared at launch and we're coming up to the holiday season, definitely give Cyberpunk 2077 a chance, and you won't regret it.